Hey, I'm Brunson, and welcome to another episode of Shoot Review. And this Shoot Review is going to be about the crop sensor cameras versus a full frame and how I discovered how they actually work. But before we do that, I'm Brunson, and I'm the owner of Modern Photography Group here in St. Petersburg, Florida, which is in Tampa Bay. Florida, also the area that we cover. We also cover Central Florida. And one of the things that we do also is event photography. So before we get started, like, share, and subscribe to this page, which is Modern Photography Group. And also swing on over to Facebook and like our Modern Photography Group page there. If you want to follow the blog and some of these postings, my posting for this one is Brunson Photography. This is where it's going to go there, and that's pretty much it. So into the situation, and again, this one is about how I finally got the importance of full frame. Now, when I've been shooting before, I shot with, where is it here? My 50D. Okay, so I love this camera, and it's awesome, and I shoot with this 28 by 135 lens. Again, it's a kit lens, and when I've shot events before in this location, the location is called the Coliseum in St. Petersburg. When we write a contract for event photography, we're always out on the floor itself. So they have these little rooms that I've seen other photographers in, but the way we approach our event photography, we don't go in those rooms. We have to be out, engaged into it. So we've done a lot of proms there. We've done a few adult type of events there also. So we're always out so that the people can flow in, flow out, and stay in the essence of the action, if you will. So we can use the crop sensor because in my contract I have that I need like 12 feet. I need a 12 foot by 12 foot area to shoot these photos. So we do a standard like backdrop and all other stuff. And I'll show you some from when we've shot out on the floor, and then I'll show you that later at the end of the video, some image samples. So I've always used this shooting in the Coliseum. So of course, when I go to shoot a new event, which was for the Martin Luther King Day breakfast, and now this breakfast has like over 1,000 people there. So the entire floor was taken up. So there was no place for us to be on the floor. And so they went back to the standard of putting us into like one of these cut rooms that they have, which is they're just off the floor, and they're really, really shallow rooms. So they're like a 14-foot wide space, if you will, by about 10 feet. So that's really shallow once you put the backdrop up, and we had to do a step and repeat. So what I found was is that I brought this, so I'm like, all right, ready to go, blah 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 blah, so on and so forth, and of course this is going to take great portraits if I'm at the 50 mark, or even the 70 mark there. Of course it's going to be, I can get those nice tight shots that I normally get of one or two people, but also I use this camera and I go wide because it's a step and repeat. Well, the moment that I went wide, I was really cutting off a lot of the area for the backdrop and people. And immediately I realized, like, this camera, the way we have it set up, isn't gonna get it done. Now understand, I use this setup all the time in our event shoots. I don't go to my 60Ds. So my 60Ds are just really like for me in our business, and when I shoot on Brunson's side that are not events. So the one thing that I could do was I could shoot with an 18 by 55 on the 50D, but I really don't like shooting backdrops with this particular lens. For some reason, I'm just not really comfortable shooting backdrops with this. What I like doing with this one is shooting candid. So if we're out, we're shooting an event, you'll see us using the 18 by 55 for candid shots out on the floor and all those particular things, because it gets really wide. I just wasn't comfortable mentally immediately with shooting the backdrops that, even though it could have happened, it could. It's just I wasn't feeling it, and that becomes an issue. So luckily, which I always do, you always bring a backup camera just in case something goes wrong. I went to my 6D and I stuck with the 24 by 105. And because this is a full frame a camera, it actually gave me the exact space I needed at about 8 feet. Okay, so between this camera at 10, 12 feet and this camera at 8 feet, it was the exact shot. And some things you have to be careful of is when you use the 18 by 55, you can kind of get a little warp, if you will. Once you get really, really wide, things can start to bend, especially with people standing up. And you just don't want that when you have a step and repeat backdrop that has their logo on it. You want it nice and flat and beautiful. So that's how I learned the difference between the important difference between a crop sensor lens, the way I like to shoot, and a full frame. Because I can just take this out. Normally when I take out my full frame and shoot family shots, I got plenty of space to back up. I can back them up 2 feet. I can, let's go over here, let's go over there. I can change and adjust and do all those things. And so I'm not really restricted. And maybe that's just the Tampa Bay area where we have plenty of beaches if people want beach shots. We have plenty of, green grass and all the other stuff. Very, very few limitations when it comes to space here. But when it came to being at the Coliseum, St. Petersburg Coliseum, in those rooms, you have to be, you have to go full frame in those rooms, in those little cutoffs. And I had to discover that for myself. And that's based on how we want to shoot the event and the results that we want to get. Because we always want the results to be consistent to the product we've promised. Okay? So we can't just kind of flip and change lenses, because then that just kind of ruins the flow, and it starts to ruin our workflow as we move forward, because it may bring in just little aberrations or little just little curves that we don't like that type of quality for our step and repeat backdrops. So that's how I learned, that the important difference in what it can do for you. So I always suggest if you have a good crop sensor lens, you keep using that, you keep practicing on. We actually use those in our business to shoot events. They'll be out this come prom season, and we'll be working those things hard. But if you have an opportunity to get a full frame, I don't think that there's anything wrong with the 6D. I think it's awesome for me. I love it. Or the 5D, or even on the Nikon side. Again, a lot of this is Canon because I shoot with Canon. And so we just had to address those issues. All right. So again, just to review, for me, the discovery of how important the full frame camera was just distance that I was forced into. Okay, I was forced into like a 8-7 foot box once we put up the backdrop, and everything. It was really, really tight, and I couldn't go as wide as I needed to. Yes, you can change lenses, but again, if you look at my first video and I tell you what my kit is, I can't at the event go, well, let me run to Best Buy and get a new lens. Like, that's just not going to happen. So since I'm very limited on the number of lenses that I have, the full frame is really what saved us that day. Of course, the pictures were great and consistent, and they loved them. But the biggest thing for me personally as a photographer, I finally now understand what the full frame can do for me, especially in tight spaces. So hopefully this video helped you guys. And ask any photography related questions down at the bottom there. But don't forget to subscribe again, and like. And if you're on Instagram, follow me at Pierce Brunson Photography, PIERCE BRUNSON Photography. That'll be awesome. Again, I'm Pierce Brunson, and I'm the owner of Modern Photography Group here in Tampa Bay. See you next time. Shoot review.